that way.
So welcome to Men in Balance, and a very special guest today, Allison Armstrong, who studies male-female communications, and as I have. And so welcome, Allison. So glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. So well, let me tell folks a little bit about you first. She's known for Understanding Men, an online course, The Queen's Code, a book, and In Sync with the Opposite Sex. So that sounds like an expert on communication to me. So let's start with just where you are and where you came from and how you got into this and how you've evolved.
Wow. The 30-second version?
Yeah, the 30-second version.
Well, I think I was born an activist and always compelled to speak up for the people who couldn't be heard. And I started studying men in 1991 for my own edification.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know what I was doing that was bringing out the worst in men. And the more I was willing to look closer and listen more carefully and catch how much I projected onto men my own motivations, which were rarely accurate,
Mm-hmm.
The more surprised I was and delighted I was, and the more I could see how the way I normally interacted with men was literally antagonizing your instincts and really bringing out the worst in men, and thinking that's who you are. And it got so that I just couldn't stand to watch other women do what I'd been doing. And the fact that men were and still are trying to defend themselves, and it's listened as poor excuses for bad behavior instead of actually really good reasons for wise choices and a discernment that women don't give men credit for.
Yeah.
And so that's where my worlds collided, because I was an activist for the children, and so much of what children need they weren't getting because their moms and dads were in turmoil, right, and attacking each other and undermining each other, and the kids are just torn up by it, and so focus in school. How are they going to do that? So it came together in 1994, and that's when we started doing our workshops. And I call myself an ostrich. I just have my head down and I just study and question and curious and peel it back and unwind it. And I think like an engineer. So I'm always looking at form follows function and how is this built and how does this turn out and where's the trim tab of if we put this in here, then we have a huge difference out there. And it's just the way I think. I think in patterns and cause and effect and better results and less effort. And I never committed to doing it for 30 years.
It's amazing how things happen.
It's crazy how things happen. And I never tried to become somebody in this field. And I just was doing what I had to do. And the Queen's Code had to be written. And it used me to get itself written.
Yeah.
And
isn't that great? I mean, you feel like an instrument sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. Especially Keys of the Kingdom and the Queen's Code. I mean, they literally were movies that I watched and typed as fast as I could. Yeah. And so there's the short version.
Yeah, how cool is that? Well, in a way, you've been doing similar things to me. You're working more with women, me working more with men, but on the same goal, and that is to improve communication. And I'm amazed, quite frankly, that the issue is that large. But it is large. It is. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Well, when you have opposing instincts, it's going to be like that. And we do. We very much have opposing instincts and run into each other and invalidate the other over and over again. Or we're we end up in a what's wrong with me kind of mindset and invalidate ourselves every time we can't get what we need from the opposite sex. And both of those things don't work. And what I'm committed to is partnership. I'm committed to just being on the same team and seeing what could happen if we were on the same team. And when we keep misunderstanding and misinterpreting each other, we can't be on the same team for long.
Right.
Because people feel hurt feelings or they feel disrespected, and then it's over at that point.
Yeah. Well, so we started out primarily as an organization to help men in their spiritual walk. And quickly I learned that men have a real spiritual need in their marriage, which many times is not being met. And that need is made worse by the lack of communication. And the men don't have a clue what they're doing wrong, except that it's not working. And so when we had these meetings and we'd come together and talk about that, and they would ask me for advice, for example, and I'm the last one to give advice on that. I said, well, I have the same problem, but tell me how we might improve on that. And so, gradually we came around to the point that, like you're saying, it needs to be more of a teamwork and more understanding each other's motivations and point of view and all that. But it's hard for men to go there. I mean, they, as I've heard you talk about in some of your lectures, it's just tough for guys to anticipate I don't know how to describe it, the intuitive approach that women go to in communication. Would you tend to agree with that?
I wish they were intuitive. I wish we were intuitive.
Yeah.
I have a lot of regard for intuition because you have to be present, right? Intuition is something that you're tapped into when you're present. And too often, I'll just speak from the women's side for now, too often a woman isn't present.
Yeah.
For what estrogen does to our brain creates an enormous amount of input. Brains are always filtering, they have to because there's too much input, but testosterone fueled brain is much better at screening out what seems irrelevant to what they're committed to. And as women, because we're constantly monitoring our safety as the smaller and much weaker sex, which men don't really understand how much that affects us. That's why I have a half-hour sample of our Understanding Women workshop right on our homepage. So men can, and women both, can find out how much of a woman's behavior is dictated by the need to feel safe and how much we don't feel safe. And as men, it's hard to appreciate how huge the difference is. So we do some important demonstrations in that 30 minutes. But if you can imagine, part of this seeking safety is seeking to be understood.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to understand me. I need you to see me. If you see me, then I'll be safe. And to see you, I think I have to give you the 30-year history of what I'm about to ask you for. Mm-hmm. And I need to describe the situation clearly. And I need to make sure you know exactly how upset I am to not be getting what I'm about to ask you for. And as you already know, so a woman will be telling the history, right? And then she's describing the situation, and she's already giving you fruits and vegetables and can openers and knives and utensils, and she's loading you up, and you don't know what you're supposed to do with these.
Right.
Because she didn't tell you where this is going, and the point is, and she hasn't told you. And so everything is getting dropped because you literally can't put it in a slot, and you don't have a context to hold it all. And by the time she finally coughs up, why don't you, and she'll usually word it that way, why don't you snuggle anymore? Why don't you ever ask me out? Just because we've been married for 30 years doesn't mean I don't want you to ask me out. And why don't you? And then we like word it as this criticism and accusation. And we think that's going to have you jump into action.
And it really gets there, doesn't it?
Yeah, we don't know that we did the opposite. And so one of the things I love about getting to have curriculum online, which we put ours on 4 years ago, we started, or no, we finished most. We have over 100 hours, right? So before COVID, is I get to interact. Instead of teaching live, I get to interact live with the people in our courses. And every single time I'm like, this is not a Q&A. This is a training program, and we're training you to empower providers, because everybody wants other people to give them what they need. So you have to empower providers. So you're going to make this superhuman effort. Don't tell me the context. Don't tell me the history. Don't tell me the situation. Tell me at the end of this conversation, what did I do for you?
Back in 2011, I believe it was, when I got your CD, one of the things that just struck me was you're talking about women liking to give a meta report to men at the end of the day. And I've sat through so many men's sessions where that just drives them nuts. But talk about the meta report for a minute, and why men need to just sit still and listen to that.
Well, I would actually tell you, don't ever just listen, and don't ever sit still. How come you're antsy is because you're being biologically emasculated. Don't ever put up with being emasculated in any form. And here's the trick. So when a woman is in what we call gathering mode, which means she's in a state of openness, she's out in the meadow, she's looking to see what the alternatives are, what the possibilities are, what could be taken home, what could be beautified or made something out of, or medicinal. And so our consciousness literally, it's why we know where your keys are, because it's scan vision. We have this scan, scan, scan. And unfortunately, in that consciousness, we're sensitive to the mental and physical and emotional states of anything in our environment. If we catch something out of the corner of our eye, it's like it jumps into us. Be like going down an aisle in a grocery store, and stuff you saw out of the corner of your eye just jumped into your basket and you had to take it home. And that's what happens. So we get full. We, like, if you can imagine being, gagging yourself full of everything we perceived that day that wasn't filtered out, because our brains didn't do that. And we come home, and then what you need, and I tell women this all the time, men require an enormous amount of space. And we come home and we have no space. And you may want attention from us, or you may want us to just leave you be. So you may want physical space where we're leaving you be, or you may want emotional space where we can hear about your day, or you may want mental space where we're solving a problem with you, or we're receiving your solution. And we don't have any space. And that's why we'll just, like, if you say, how are you? Guys, don't say, how are you? Just like, I'll tell you what to do instead, but stop saying, how are you? Or how was your day? That triggers a meta report. And then it's just like, blah, blah, and then this, and then that, and the blah, blah. And it could be good stuff mixed with bad stuff.
So let me just clarify for the men who are feeling uncomfortable right now. A meta report is like a report on everything that they saw in the meta, and men are sitting there listening, saying, "Give me something I can act on. Give me something I can do." Right?
What's the point? You're wondering, and the point is, and are you going to get to the point? No, she's vomiting. She's vomiting, and what she needs to do is hold the trash. And I train women all the time to ask men to hold the trash, but most, I haven't gotten to them. There's billions of women I haven't gotten to yet. So if a woman you say, how are you? And she just launches, just mentally think, oh, she's full. She needs to be saved from everything she's full of. I'll just hold the trash. Okay, hold the trash, hold the trash. This is how I'm helping her. Just hold the trash, hold the trash. And then here's the key, Jerry. When she pauses, you could think, oh, thank God she's done. If you think that, it's not going to go well. When she pauses, this will, guys, honestly, this will get you more intimacy, more sex. She'll have fewer hurt feelings, fewer rage monsters. It works like a miracle. When she pauses, take a beat. And then if she hasn't started again, say, anything else?
Right. Yes.
And you got to say it like she is the most fascinating human being on the planet. and you're hoping there's more. You're just hoping you can't say anything else. Like, oh geez, are you done yet? I've taught this to a 13-year-old boy. You actually have to be anything else. And what that sounds like to a woman, that sounds like, I love you. You're wonderful. You're the most fascinating creature on the planet. You're beautiful. I'd do anything for you. And all you did was say anything else.
Right, right.
And sometimes you were like, well, yeah. And then there's more because we'll check and see, how much room do I have? And sometimes we'll be, well, just one more thing.
Yeah.
And then the next time you pause, anything else?
Yeah.
No.
Mm.
But thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Wow, you're amazing.
So
And we just,
what I try to tell men in that kind of situation, they're looking for a job. They're looking for something to do out of all this.
yes.
And I'm saying, your job is just to listen and to verify what she's saying and to validate what she's saying and let her know that you heard it.
Yeah, except listening is mysterious to people.
Yeah.
Do you know? They think they are listening, but they're listening with, and the problem is, and the problem is, and the problem is, and the problem is, right? And the point is, or a woman is listening, and what does this have to do with me? And what does this have to do with me? And what does this have to do with me? The questions we listen through is what messes everything up. And we're in hunting mode, we're listening for the point and the problem. And in gathering mode, we're listening to, what does this have to do with me and what do you need from me?
Right.
And both of those, I teach women, I call it listening to learn. You can listen to learn, you can listen to like, you can listen to admire. So listening to learn, the question in your head is, what matters to them? What do they care about? What's important to them? And then it's like a treasure hunt. In the middle of a meta report or a complaint, you can end up with priceless information. Or they can be talking and you can listen, well, what do I admire about that? What do I admire about that? What do I admire about that? And you'll actually see things you admire about that person. Our brains are literally search engines. We're going to find whatever we're searching for, except if you're a man trying to figure out what is the point in what she's saying. Yeah. There is no point.
And there doesn't have to be. That's the cool thing.
The point is that she trusts you.
Yeah, right.
Or she wouldn't have, how was your day? Fine.
Yeah. Well, so, I think sometimes men get in the habit of just limiting their answers to something very short just because they either don't have more to say or they don't want to go there, or they don't want to open up this can of worms where we're going to be talking for hours, or the worst thing is we need to talk, So when she says we need to talk, that's deadly, right?
Yeah, I try to tell women don't ever say that to men because it has turned out badly for them too much. But I also try to have women understand that if you say to a man, how was your day? And he said it was fine, he's not excluding you from his life. There's nothing about it that's worth spending energy on now. It was fine.
Right.
And I try to teach women about what energy conservers men are and how sensitive you are to the expenditure of energy. And in our Understanding Men course online, we talk about the worth it calculation, and that always you're calculating and you have this profound awareness of what would be the upside of doing that. You actually just addressed this, right? Mm-hmm. What would be the upside? What would I be not doing, right? So what will be the end result? What will I have to put into it? How much time and energy and resources? What will I not have that time and energy and resources to spend on? And so how does it come out? And women don't know that they profoundly affect the worth it calculation, because when we appreciate what you provided for us, for one thing, we're giving you back energy that you spent. And for another thing, when you tell us the difference it made in our life, that just increased the value of you having spent what you spent. And this is why it's deadly to take things for granted, right? Well, like an expectation, well, you should have done that. Why should I have to thank you for listening to me? You should listen to me. Entitlement is deadly. And, but, but you all are so, it's one of the things I love about men. You just want to do what works, right? You're so committed to doing what works. And even if something's completely illogical, if it worked, you'll keep doing it.
Yeah. You know, the odd thing in my marriage is my wife is probably more like the traditional male role, and I'm more like the traditional female. I'm much more intuitive. So she's the one that brings logic to the debates. I have to be prepared for that. I think it's
I was
important.
like that with my husband too.
Yeah. I think
I was way more logical than Greg was.
yeah. I think it's important to put the disclaimer in there that not all men are any particular way, or not all women are any particular way. However, I don't know if you've seen the videos by Mark Gungor about the way men's brains work versus women's brains. Have you seen that?
Probably not.
He does a little funny thing where he opens up this box, and it's full of drawers.
Oh, I have seen that.
Yes,
I have seen that.
the
Yeah,
man had everything in one individual drawer, and it never touches anything else in any other drawer. And he opens up the women's side, and it's just spaghetti. I mean, it's everything touches everything. And so that's important to acknowledge that there is that difference sometimes.
Yeah, and Jerry, I would say that even with you saying that your wife's more logical and you're more intuitive, that you're still compelled by protecting. You're still compelled by providing for her. You provide from your intuition, but you're still paying attention to how can you provide for her.
Right.
And that's something that women don't know. Women don't know how much men are focused on protecting us and providing for us. And that if you say no to me asking you to provide something, it means it got trumped by something you need to protect. Protect always trumps provide.
Right.
And unfortunately, if a woman is criticizing a man, he's now under attack. Like, she'll criticize him for what he's not providing. Like, why don't you? But now he's under attack, which means he's going to go from wanting to provide to protecting, and he's going to be protecting himself from her. And now everything she says after that, he can't even hear.
Yeah.
Because and women don't know that we have that effect on you.
So talk a little bit, if you will, about the traditional role that women have been programmed to play, of the pleaser and making things right and all of that. How does that play into the communication, would you say?
Well, I would say it's worse than programming. It goes back to safety. And it's hard wired. It's instinctual, it's ancestral. And it has to do with how weak we experience ourselves being physically. And honestly, like, for a woman to set a boundary with a man takes courage, real courage, because she's afraid if she ticks him off, not only will he not protect her, he'll attack her.
Yeah.
And so this is why if a man, is proposing something, right? Hey, let's do this. Okay. Every woman knows she said no. But men's brains are much more literal. He hears, okay, all right, we're good to go.
Yeah.
No, it's we're afraid to say no. Yeah. So we'll intonate no with a word that's acquiescing. And that has to do with it's not intellectual. Yeah. It's not rational. It has to do with, if I'm more pleasing to you, then you'll save me. And if there's two women, I have to outplease you. I have to be more attracted to you than she is.
That's heavy.
Yeah. It creates horrendous competition between women. It's just brutal. Yeah. And it has, like, mothers and daughters competing to be more pleasing to the husband and father.
And that leads, does it not, to women not speaking up for what they want and what they know is rightfully theirs, in order to preserve the peace and please
Yeah,
and make happy, right?
we're peacekeepers instead of peacemakers, and that's why I differentiate between human instincts, which create normal behavior, and victories of human spirit, where we take that stand, where we do speak up, where we remember you're for me, and so me giving you information about what I need, that's good for both of us. That you want me to tell you,
Yeah.
you need me to tell you, and you don't speak hint.
Mhm. Yeah.
So to me, Jerry, it's sad how much is lost
Yeah.
because it's possible between men and women when we realize that we can bring out the best in each other, when women realize men are for women, like you're really
And,
for us.
and what is lost, it seems to me, is the intimacy, like the very deep intimacy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
intimacy, tenderness,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, all of it.
I'm going to give you a chance to speak to 4,000 plus men now. Just say, since you're usually talking to women and telling women what to do, what would you tell the men to do on their side of the equation?
Oh, I love talking to men. The first thing I would say is to figure out this would be a synopsis of our being extraordinary as a man. So, number one, figure out what your death spiral is. So, think about what happens that goes from bad to worse and brings out the behavior in you that you're ashamed of.
Mm.
What is your death spiral? And then think about what is your definition of greatness? What are your highest values that when you're being that way, you are proud to be that man? You're proud to be yourself. And then go to the next step and figure out how much of what do you need to keep being able to be yourself, to keep being able to be your best. So, for example, the man that I'm in love with, his name is Dan, he, he meditates. He meditates every morning. And when I found out that he did that, that was sacred territory. Don't mess with that, right? That's what he does to be the man that I'm in love with. So he needs that. It could take up to an hour. Okay, I'm in. I'm in for that, right? And so whatever it is, whether it's your bike ride, your run, your hour alone, you're hanging out with the guys watching whatever the ball game of the season is, whatever it is that keeps causing you to be the qualities that you most love being. Golf is an incredible tank filler for so many men. My husband rode motorcycles fast. We called it the Church of the Open Road. He came back with all the stress of the week gone and returned to the man that I was in love with.
Mm.
Right. And so, what causes you to be you? And when you figure that out, that's worth protecting. Protect your ability to be the best version of yourself, which will prevent you from the death spiral.
Wow.
Right. And it might be an hour more of sleep. It might be 2 more hours of getting your body out there and making it sweat, or alone time, or getting to read a book or go to church, whatever it is. It could be a combination of these things. Protect it, get it. Because when you protect that about yourself, now you become Superman. You become invincible. And if someone comes after you, if someone's cranky, whiny, complaining, attacking of you, you actually can handle it. And men taught me this, but I could have done better if I'd only eaten. But I could have handled it if I'd only slept more. I could have done better if I'd been keeping up my exercise. I could have done better if.
Yeah.
Right. So even the death spiral isn't inevitable no matter how much another person attacks you. You can actually have resilience against it. And then the next thing I would say, which this is tremendous victory of human spirit, is do ask and do tell. Do ask and do tell. Every instinct says, don't ask for what you need. That's revealing a weakness. But one of the things I learned about men that astonished me was that you all believe that everything a woman is giving is all she's willing to give. And to ask her for more is asking her to change. Well, what if we're just trying to give to you what we need, and we don't know why we're failing?
Yeah.
Because you haven't told us that what you need is really different, right? Most men, when they're upset, need to be left alone. Most women, when they're upset, they need attention, they need to be soothed, they need to be consoled. So a man's upset, a woman will start petting him. She doesn't know that epinephrine in his body hasn't go, ah, because it stings for us to do that. She doesn't know that. And now she's doubly upset, right? So these opposite instincts, right, have us not know what you need. And I mean, a huge example of that, Jerry, is women are largely clueless about what sex provides, what appreciation provides, what just being willing to stop what you're doing and just pay him attention. Women don't know how much just paying attention to you in a good way, just looking at you, like you're walking the other way on the street and you look into your eyes and smile. We have no idea the impact that has on you. And so if you're not telling the women in your life, this is what I need and this is what it looked like, what do you need to give me what I need? If men aren't doing that, women are failing. And we have a course called Being Extraordinary as a Man. Women are begging their husbands to do it so that they'll then tell the women what they need from them. Because we want to do more than please.
Right.
We want to empower you. We want to take care of you.
It seems to me if men are willing to do this, it actually empowers the woman to do the same. He speaks up to his needs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, gosh, we're out of time. I hate that because I'm just so enjoying this. I would like to continue it. Maybe we can do it some other time, but
We should.
it's really thrilling to talk to you.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are not familiar, her name is Allison Armstrong. You can find more about her at AllisonArmstrong.com. And she does presentations all over the world, for this matter, on this topic. And so we are indeed glad to have you here and thankful and really appreciative.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with you, and keep up the good work.
No, thank you, Allison. Appreciate you being here.
All right. Bye.